it's not ideal. You get kind of used to it. I've been doing it for a while. Guys with families and everything, it's a little bit harder for them. The other con is that, you know, you'll work on everything related to the bowl from September up until the SEC, ACC championship game. You have everything in place, and then the football coach changes 35, 40% of it. Again, they've got a set system of how they want to do things, and you have to bend to that system as much as realistically possible. So it can get frustrating when you don't get answers about how many players are showing up for FCA breakfast, or how many are going to Andretti karting, or coach wants to change the practice time 30 minutes, so you got to call the facility and push a meal function that you had planned for 3 months back. So that's kind of frustrating. From a pros, I mean, it's a great job. You get to see a lot of cool stuff. You get to hear a lot of cool things that people don't necessarily hear. You're on the sideline for major bowl games and all those different things. So, I mean, we get paid to do this, which is kind of weird, it's kind of funny, because it's not rocket science. I don't try and fool anybody and say what we're doing is, some great initiative. We raise a lot of money for charity in the grand scheme of things, but, we're not solving, we're not curing cancer or anything like that. But, I mean, you name it, don't boo the team, but this year after the Chick-fil-A kickoff game, we're all sitting in the green room after the game, and we're watching the Georgia-Clemson game on the TV in the green room. People start filtering in, and next thing you know, one of the coaching staffs, half of their coaching staff is in the green room watching the Clemson, the first half of the Georgia-Clemson game, and they're sitting breaking down the different plays and all different things like that. And a couple of them had a couple beers that they probably weren't supposed to have and things of that nature. So you get to do cool stuff like that. At our golf tournament, since it's a semi-private event, the coaches are a little bit more laid back. So Urban Meyer's bobbing around and, hanging out with his wife and cracking jokes, and Steve Spurrier's cracking jokes on Nick Saban, and all those different things. So you get to kind of see the behind the scenes stuff like that a lot. So that's, pretty cool.
I guess back to when you're talking about experience compared to what would you consider the more relevant experience, whether or not it's involved with a sport activity, or if you have experience with something that you can get more a real time or real life kind of position?
Everybody is different in that respect. So this is just my personal opinion. One, if you're not doing something here, you're behind the curve. Like a pet peeve for me is, I get a resume. It's a student that goes to the University of Georgia who's got every sport imaginable, and they don't have any experience in the athletic association whatsoever. That's like immediate red flag. And it doesn't have to be football. I think that's a mistake some people make. We had a guy, he was a friend of somebody at a company we used to be affiliated with, so he kind of got the interview that way. It's a phone interview. And the guy crushed the phone interview, just absolutely killed it. But he didn't have any experience on his resume. And part of the reason you need experience is it is to learn, but at the same time it's so we figure, well, if you did all these different things, it's probably not going to be an issue that you have to be at a hotel doing a banquet function on December 26th. You went through what I had to go through. You know what I mean? So it's not so much what sometimes, it's how much, and it's that you did it, period. Now, again, if it's 10 things of where you took tickets at a fan fest or something like that, you want it to be more involved in that. But the guy, he killed the phone interview, but he didn't have any experience. And we asked him, look, you went to the university, you went to Florida. They got every sport imaginable. Why didn't you volunteer for anything? And he said, well, I wanted to do football, but they were all full. And we're like, you could have did soccer, lacrosse, diving. It doesn't matter, So definitely from an experience standpoint, if you're not doing something here. Now, if you've got something else separate that's really great, and somehow, some way, somebody who works at the Hawks, and you go there and work 20 hours a week, that's perfectly fine. But if you're on campus and you're not affiliated with the athletic association in some form or fashion, again, I don't look at it and say they didn't work in football. That doesn't necessarily mean anything to me, because what you do here in football doesn't necessarily relate to what we're going to do. It could be soccer, it could be whatever, diving, gymnastics, doesn't matter, basketball. So in that respect, you got to do something here, use this resource because you got all of these great sports here. Above and beyond that, as much as you can, try and figure out what you want to do. What I did was, I looked at it like this. my professor told me I need experience. I want to work in football. So, okay, I'm in college, but I'm 3 hours away from Atlanta, 3.5 hours away from Atlanta. So I would do stuff when I came home for Christmas break. This will tell you how long ago it was. I would come home with a phone book and go through the phone book and go down things. Well, I didn't have a car, so I couldn't go work with the Falcons because they were up in Swanee. I couldn't get there. I couldn't come out here. It's an hour outside of the city. I'm a Georgia fan at heart, so I didn't want to go work at Georgia Tech. So what's next? You got bowl games. I actually picked up the phone, called the Chick-fil-A Bowl at the time, and I gave them the whole spiel. And this is, this is back when we were on quarter systems, which you guys probably don't understand either. But you basically got like the whole month of December off. So I'm calling on like December 1st, 3rd, somewhere in there. And hi, this is Anton Dawson. I'm a sport management student looking to get some experience. How can I come up and help? Lady picks up the phone. Experience? We've done all the work. Hangs up the phone on me. That administrative assistant is still there today. It's a true story. She hung up the phone on me. I never heard back from her. I went and called. There used to be something here called the Heritage Bowl, which was a black college bowl game at the time. Called them. Same spiel. Like, oh, you need something to do? Yeah, be here tomorrow at 9 a.m. And I did that for 2 years. There used to be something called the Georgia-Florida High School All-Star Game, where they took the best high school players from Georgia and they pit them against the best high school players from Florida in December. So it was like a bowl game for high school kids. So I went and did that for 2 years. So I tried to recreate or tried to find things that were similar to what I thought the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl was at the time. And luckily enough, I met a lot of people who had either worked with it or things of that nature. That isn't always possible. So, so along that same line, what I would tell you to do is try and find something as meaningful as possible, but don't think it's got to be the Falcons, it's got to be the Hawks, it's got to be Phillips Arena. Smaller things like us, you get to do more because we only got 15 staff people. I couldn't tell you how many. The Falcons have a ton. It's a great organization. I know people work there the whole thing, but when it's 15 people, you're gonna have to do some real work at some point because we can't necessarily do it all ourselves. It ebbs and flows, and again, it's not always glamorous, but I would look to the smaller organizations, and that's another thing too. As you guys go out and meet people, I know everything is digital now, and it's LinkedIn, Facebook, and that's not really networking. I get 5 LinkedIn requests a week from people I've never met. I accept them, but I don't know these people. When you have time, go sit down with somebody face to face. That's how you make a connection. That's how ideas and business deals and all those different things, they don't really get done over email. The initial part of it gets done face to face. I really over the phone after email. So as much as you can, call somebody up and say, hey, I'm interested in your company. I mean, you can do this now. I'm at home on Christmas break. Do you have 15 or 20 minutes that I could come in and talk to? We had a young man who, he goes to West Georgia. He did that very exact same thing. He was interested. He wanted to do the internship. He's in school now, so this is his senior year. He said, can I have 25, 30 minutes of your time, come down and talk more about your organization? He came down and spoke to us. He was real impressive. He said, anytime you need something, let me know. I said, okay, I got a football camp that we're doing in July. If you can help, I'll shoot you some information. Shot him the information. He showed up. And what he didn't know at the time was my boss, the vice president of events, was there. But he was there with his son. So he's dressed like a dad. He's got sandals, Adidas shorts and all that stuff. So my boss took notice of it. So that turned into, okay, he did a great job with that. So now somebody else in our organization, they needed help doing promotions during the Chick-fil-A kickoff game. Well, go get Noah. So now Noah went from taking 30 minutes, to drive from West Georgia down to our organization to meet with us. So now he's on the field doing promotions for free, but he's getting that experience, at the Chick-fil-A kickoff game. And, honestly, within reason, if he wanted an internship with us, he's probably a front runner already. So, smaller organizations, things like that you don't traditionally think of, like us, things of that nature, make those connections and try and, again, because it's such a small staff, you get a chance to do more hands-on things and you get to learn that way.
Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years, like career-wise?
You know, it's an interesting question because, you know, who stays in the job for 10 years now? Not many people. And, you know, because of the change in the college football playoff system, you know, my job is pretty much not dynamically going to change, but it's going to completely change. So, you know, at least until we host one semifinal game, I'm probably going to be here because I want to get that experience. And then, you know, we're looking, actually it's funny you say that because I think we're trying to host the championship game in 2018, I think is what we're bidding for. So that's 5 years exactly. So we won't necessarily, it's real complicated with how that will actually be executed. The college football playoff, which again is the BCS, the simple way of saying that, they'll have a complete staff that will run that game day to day. But so the next 5 years, I'll probably still be doing the same thing. They do a good job with changing our job responsibilities. When I first started, I was actually doing ticket sales. I wasn't really good at that. And then I was doing a bunch of different things. Now I actually, you know, and I didn't cover this, but I managed all of our hotel relationships. So anytime we're housing a team or a guest, I'm responsible for the relationship with that hotel and whatever comes with that. And then I managed all of the different properties that we do in the Georgia World Congress Center. So our hospitality functions, our fan fest, and all those different things. So that's changed kind of dynamically. I used to run the Battle for Bowling events. I picked up the hotels last year. So they do a good job of changing our responsibilities around. So I'm happy where I'm at now. But, you know, 5 years and 1 month, I may want to do something else.
When people leave, where do they go?
People don't leave. That's why nobody can get a job with us. They don't leave. I mean, we've got an administrative assistant who's been there 4 years. Our chief operating officer, I think, is like 17. I'm 10. My direct boss is like, well, he's 14 because I work for him when I was an intern. People who have left, they've done a little bit of everything. We've got a young lady who was an intern. She went to UVA. She interned with us. I forget her exact title, but she was basically second. So the ACC has a director of football operations. She was his number 2 person. He left to go work for the college football playoff. So now she left to go with him to go do that. So she's director of operations for the college football playoff, for the BCS. You got that. We've had people who were director of operations for this past Final Four in Atlanta. So she was an intern, worked with us full time, has done a ton of different things. So she did the director of operations job here in Atlanta for the local organizing committee, or in Atlanta for the local organizing committee. She left, took a job in Dallas, and she just came back to be director of memberships for the Atlanta Chamber, Atlanta Convention and Visitor Bureau. So it's a little bit of everything. You know, sometimes you get people who realize they don't necessarily want to work in sports. A lot of times with PR communications, they kind of splinter off and don't necessarily do that. But we've had people who work for agencies, conference offices, schools, you name it. A lot collegiate, not so much professional. The collegiate company. Atlanta has a high concentration of marketing companies, so a lot of people are working with your Home Depots and your Coca-Colas and AT&Ts and all those different companies through those types of things. So we've got people a little bit everywhere. Under Armour.
Any other last questions?
No, I'm approaching that hour, so everybody wants to get out of here.
So, I mean, like, what other, like, what specific, like, sort of marketing strategies that Chick-fil-A will use? I know the name itself, you know, especially at the end of the game, when the bowl games are coming up, Chick-fil-A will obviously attracts a lot of attention, you know, general attraction from a lot more people, but do you have any kind of specific marketing strategies to advertise the event?
Yeah, we're in a great situation, and I forget the specific number, but we're at like 16 or 17 straight sellouts. So we, believe it or not, we don't do a lot of marketing to sell tickets. We have a season, what you would refer to as a season ticket database, so 20 to 24,000 tickets that are sold through like 1,700 different accounts. So between that, the allotments that we give, which is around 33,000 tickets to the team, we're pretty much sold out every year, which is great. So a lot of our marketing is based off of fan engagement, and viewership. So we're trying to push eyes. We don't have tickets to sell, so we want a high rating. And then trying to get people engaged. So we've come up, I mean, obviously from a social media standpoint, if you go to our website, we've come up with something called Backstage, which focuses on different elements that people who are not experiencing Bowl Week or one of our events might see. So we get in the car with the celebrity alumni that ride out in the Kia for the halftime or for the game ball delivery. We talk about the process of how Chick-fil-A vends sandwiches in the Georgia Dome. We've come up with something called Rivalizer, where you can basically take a photo of somebody and put any ACC or SEC college football helmet on them, but usually it's supposed to be the opposite team, right? So you put a Florida helmet on Mark Richt or something like that. So a lot of it's social media based. Again, we're not so much trying to sell tickets at this point, which is great. We're trying to draw people to see our content and also watch TV at the end of the day. So a lot of it is based off of that. This particular year, we looked at a number of different things that can't necessarily give away, but there's some charity aspects of some things that we're working on. But again, it's primarily focused on viewership at this point. Any billboards we do is general branding, very rarely. If we get to announcement of teams and we still got tickets, that's probably an issue. So we're usually trying to push people to watch the television on New Year's Eve.
One last question.
You said you don't work for Chick-fil-A, so how involved are they?
Extremely. Probably more than any, to my knowledge, most sponsors are. A lot of it is their corporate culture. We're not gonna, we can't have a beer sponsor for obvious reasons. So you got that part of it, but I don't know. Most sponsorships, a lot of times, they say, here's a check for X million dollars. You slide them their tickets across the table, and that's about it. They get some in-game stuff, they get, a game program ad, and that's where it ends. With Chick-fil-A, it's much different. Again, we meet with them once a month at a minimum. Consistent emails, because we're trying to leverage their brands, their opportunities, and the things that they do for benefit for us. And so we just don't look at it like, thanks for the check, we're good. No, we want access to their Twitter follows, their Facebook, to push our stuff because they got way more than we do. So from that aspect, they're heavily involved. We had the event we did out at the Tour Championship, we had an internal recap, so they were sitting in on that yesterday. So, I haven't worked with a million sponsors, but I doubt there's many that are that involved. So it's pretty closely tied.
Well, on behalf of the faculty and students in the Sport Management Department at the University of Georgia, I'd like to thank Anton for coming and spending the time at the Chick-fil-A Bowl and just to share his experience working within the sport industry, and also to talk to us about the internship opportunity. So I do hope we have lots of students that are interested in applying for these positions. Now, I'm sure your contact information is probably on the website.
It is, and I'll make sure that we get it to the faculty.
Right,
and
so
bring business
you
partners.
should be able to find Anton's contact information on the Chick-fil-A Bowl website as well. He'll send it to us, so if you contact any of the professors within the faculty, we should be able to get you that information. Again,
Feel free to contact me. Like I said, I know I can't necessarily get you a job or internship, but if you have questions, you need advice, I'm more than willing to answer. It may not be right away, but it will be eventually.